Stewart, who is back in his chair at The Daily Show on Comedy Central, was hopping mad Monday night, and it was his old foe, Donald Trump, as the target. Let's watch.
I don't know if you know this, but most people just can't commit fraud and expect to face no repercussions, even if everyone's doing it. Try getting a car loan by saying you have 10 times as much money as you really do, or claim 20 dependents when you have no children, or say you make slightly less money to qualify for food assistance. I will guarantee you there are not just financial consequences for those lies, but criminal ones. But don't tell that to the investment community, because in their minds, in pursuit of profit, there is no rule that cannot be bent. There is no principle that cannot be undercut, as long as you and your friends are making money. And the only immoral practice, hold on, I'm not done. If I could raise my chair up, I would. Apparently, the only immoral practice in the capitalist system is to use that money for people who may need it.
So Jon Stewart on a tear there, obviously, about the Letitita James case in New York, responding to an argument Kevin O'Leary was making from Shark Tank that I've heard him make that, frankly, I agree with, but we're probably going to argue about this.
Yes.
His argument being that, okay, but no one has claimed that they were harmed. No bank, no financial institution said, you defrauded me and I'm suing you, because this is standard practice to, creatively represent your assets in terms of obtaining loans. And in fact, all those financial institutions said they would happily do business with him again. So that's why it appears to many on the right as finding some pretext to prosecute Trump for something that is standard practice in the financial loan-seeking side of things.
Yes, but it's still fraud at the end of the day. I mean, if you're
according to Letitita James, I guess.
But I mean, if you're,
I can say here, I want to give you money. I'm saying how much money I have, and I'm being a little bit, I'm saying, well, my net worth is this because I'm such a terrific TV host. I could be theoretically making twice as much money. And you say, okay, here's the money, and then you say, and then you don't sue me later. You don't feel cheated by me. But some third party has come in and said, no, that was fraud. But I don't think it's fraud, and you don't think it's fraud.
But your terrificness of a TV host is by its nature subjective. The size of apartment that you or I live in are not subjective facts.
The worth of the apartment's subjective.
The worth of the apartment is subjective, but I cannot, nor can you as an individual person, go to a bank and say, I'd like collateral to buy a second home, and they say, what size is your existing home? And I say, well, it's triple the size that it actually is. That's fraud on its face. Now, the other point that I would make, Robby, is I take the point that banks, etc., did not complain that they had been wronged. But I would argue, from a less libertarian position than yourself, that the government or the state or the system does have a legitimate interest in ensuring the integrity of the system. And so if the situation is one in which we just say, well, yeah, everybody lies about that stuff, then you just end up in a fundamentally unstable financial system.
Sure, but I think there are a lot of voters in this country who feel like the integrity of the system is in fact being challenged by activities like Letitita James, like what the judicial authorities in Colorado did, what various prosecutors are doing to try to make it difficult or impossible for Trump to run for president again, to starve him of resources, to keep his name off the ballot, to do all of those things, even though he is currently leading. He's the more likely candidate to win the presidency right now. At some point, does it not seem like, and I know there's no cabal. I'm not saying there's Joe Biden and his evil team assembled and came up with some scheme to do this, but it does feel that way to a lot of conservatives in this country, that they know they can't win fair and square this time. They see the poll numbers, and so they're throwing everything they possibly can at Trump. And if you know what, if the Justice Department or the legal system goes to war against you, if the IRS really cares, they can always find something. If they can't find anything, then they get you on obstructing the investigation or perjury or something, the way they got, Martha Stewart and Bill Clinton, frankly, and everybody. If they try hard enough, they can get you, and that's what they're doing.
So here's the thing. In a way, I know it would make better TV if I was just like, no, that's complete nonsense. I'm actually not unsympathetic to that view, but here's my...
Well, I'm not unsympathetic to the view, ultimately, that he needs to be held accountable for whatever the crimes are.
Well, you see, the thing to me, the actual acid test of these various cases is, would a otherwise anonymous citizen be charged in these cases? And I actually think the answer to that question is different depending on the case. So the case, the hush money, what has become known as the Stormy Daniels case, I'm not really convinced that a private citizen would be dragged before criminal courts for that. Now, other end of the spectrum, if I or you or anyone else said, oh, I'll just take classified documents with me and I'll store them in my house, and then if Trump's behaviour is as alleged on the obstruction part of the Mar-a-Lago thing, it's just textbook obstruction of justice. And that's the problem.
Yeah, on the Mar-a-Lago thing, Trump got himself, that was really a self-inflicted wound because he could have just given back the documents like Pence and like Biden,
Right.
and it would not have been an issue. I don't know how significant an issue it is, frankly. Yes, it's pretty clear. I mean, he admitted he kept the documents. He says he has the right to keep the documents, but he admitted he kept them, and they were forced to raid the property. I tend to think there's a lot of knee-jerk overclassification going on in the federal government. In fact, this says something to me that now multiple political figures, accidentally and inadvertently, even according to the Justice Department, kept boxes of documents they shouldn't have. Suggests to me that there is some knee-jerk attempt to keep secret things that ought not to or need not be secret. So I'm not so clear of how weighty the issue is, but yes, he did walk right into that one. No disagreement there.
You see, the thing about overclassification is, yes, that's a valid argument, but it's a different argument to me from saying the Department of Justice or prosecutors subpoena you or me, and they say, preserve these documents or return these documents. And if you or I were to go to a lawyer and say, could we just hide them? Or could we just say that we don't have what we have? That is, I mean, you just can't do that. I mean, that is just textbook obstruction of justice.
Right. I mean, he's arguing that he declassified them, and I'm not saying that's correct, right? His argument is that he has declassified them, so he has the right to have them. He can declassify. Now, I know the argument against that is that he actually didn't do that, and he can't. It's not just like a magical, I cast declassification as a fourth level spell or something. Sure. But anyway, look, Trump is. For better or worse, though, all of these cases are making it, I think, harder for him to campaign. He's got to appear in trial a lot. He's being starved of financial resources. He has to pony up money in the Letitita James case. That got reduced for now. But, I mean, there was some speculation he might have to sell off assets. And I don't know that this appearance of persecution really helps him with maybe the general electorate, but it certainly, man, does it make his base angry.
It does, and I think one of the more interesting sort of hypotheticals in all of this is what happens in the first criminal case, the hush money case, if he's actually acquitted. I mean, then I think you have a whole other situation where the one criminal case that is most likely to go to trial is also, in my judgment, the case where the prosecution's argument is weakest. Right. So if he then is acquitted of that, then he can obviously use that to tarnish the other three criminal cases where, frankly, I do not think the prosecution case is weak. I think it's very strong.
Right. Well, in the meanwhile, there was some news yesterday that he's selling Bibles that say "God bless the USA." So
as God intended,
just as God intended. I mean, gotta make money somehow to pay for all these legal bills.
Absolutely, and what better way than selling a few Bibles off? But what is it, $60 a pop?
$60 a pop, yeah. Well,
sniff, bargain.
Viewers can go look that up. That does it for us on today's show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Niall, great to have you in the chair.
Good
Thank
to be
you
with
for filling in.
My pleasure.
All right, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss any of our content. And for those of you who like to listen while on the go, we're now available anywhere you can find podcasts. I will see you back here tomorrow.